It's 6 p.m. You've been on your feet since before the sun came up. Dinner is half made. The kitchen looks like a war zone. And your toddler is on the floor screaming because you cut the toast into triangles. And before your brain can catch up and before you can think, this is just toast, you hear a voice come out of you, sharp, fast, not quite yours. That is enough. The room goes quiet. Your toddler stares at you. And in the 3 seconds that follow, something worse than the meltdown happens. You hear what you just sounded like and you think, what is wrong with me? That thought, if what is wrong with me, is where I want to start. Not with the meltdown, with the 3 seconds after, because the guilt that follows a snap is real. I'm not going to tell you to let it go or shake it off, but I need you to hear this. That guilt is not evidence that you're a bad parent. It's data. It's pointing directly at something, and what it's pointing at is not what you think, because the snap didn't start with your toddler. It started about 30 years before your toddler was born, and in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly where in your body, in your nervous system, in your history, and I'm going to give you one specific thing you can do tonight before you say a single word. Stay with me. Before we go anywhere else, we have to talk about your body, because the snap wasn't a decision. It arrived before you could make one. Here's what happened in that kitchen. The moment your toddler screamed, a small structure deep in your brain, the amygdala, fired an alarm. Not a slow, thoughtful alarm, a 12 millisecond alarm. Your thinking brain, the part that would have said, this is just toast, she's 2, this is fine, didn't even receive the signal for another 30 milliseconds. The alarm beat the thought by nearly 3 times. The heat you felt in your chest, adrenaline, the constriction in your throat, your body bracing for a threat, the voice that didn't sound like yours, that was someone running on alarm, not on thought. The snap came first, the guilt came second. That order is not a character flaw. That order is biology. But your body overreacted still doesn't explain the part that goes deepest. Why that sound? Why your toddler's cry specifically? Why does it reach all the way down into something old? That's the layer almost no one talks about. And it's the one that changes everything. I want you to go back, not to the kitchen tonight, back much further. You were small, maybe 3, maybe 5. You were upset, crying, falling apart, overwhelmed in exactly the way your toddler just was. And the adult in the room, what did they do? If they came to you, got low, got close, stayed calm. Your nervous system logged that and filed it. A child in distress, survivable. Someone comes. Big feelings are okay, help arrives, but if they left, if they slammed a door, if they got louder or colder or said stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about, your nervous system logged that file too, and it filed it differently. A child in distress, dangerous, escalate, no one is coming. 30 years later, your toddler cries, and without your permission, and without you even knowing it's happening, your nervous system opens that file, the old one, and it responds accordingly. That is not a flaw. That is not failure. That is a nervous system doing the only thing it knows how to do, protecting you from something it was taught a long time ago to fear. And here is where I need to slow down, because what I'm about to tell you is the most hopeful sentence in child psychology, and I want you to actually hear it. Give me 60 more seconds. A psychologist named Mary Main spent years studying one question: what actually determines whether a child feels secure? Not just loved, secure. Able to trust the world, able to trust themselves. She expected the answer to be about what happened in a parent's childhood. Trauma or absence or hardship. She expected the difficult histories to predict difficult children. She was wrong. The one factor that predicted a child's security, more reliably than anything else, was not whether the parent had a good childhood. It was whether the parent had made sense of the childhood they had, not fixed it, not healed it perfectly, not pretended it was fine, made sense of it. Parents who could look back honestly at the painful parts and the good parts and say, this is what happened, this is how it shaped me, and I understand it now. Their children were secure. Even when the history was hard, sit with that. It is not your past that shapes your child's sense of safety. It is whether you have made peace with it. The ghost in your nervous system is not a life sentence, but first, you have to know it's there. Here's why all of this matters in that kitchen right now. A toddler has no ability to regulate their own nervous system. The wiring simply isn't built yet. That's not a failure of your parenting. It's developmental neuroscience. So what a toddler does instead is borrow. They borrow your nervous system to regulate theirs. In 1978, a researcher named Edward Tronick demonstrated this in one of the most replicated experiments in child development. A mother sits with her baby, warm, responsive, connected. Then, on cue, she goes blank. Still face, no expression, no response. Within 90 seconds, the baby falls apart, reaching, arching, turning away, crumpling. And the moment the mother re-engages, the baby recovers almost instantly. Your calm becomes their calm. That is not a metaphor. That is a documented physiological transfer. And this is the part that hits. Your storm can become theirs too. So picture the kitchen again, 2 nervous systems in one room, one dysregulated, that's your toddler, one about to be, that's you. And whichever one steadies first leads the other one out. Your toddler cannot do this. You can. Here's how. The meltdown in that kitchen was never only about your toddler. It was the moment your child's needs and your nervous system's old memory collided in real time. That trigger you feel isn't proof you're failing, it's information. It's your body pointing exactly at the place that's still asking to be handled differently than it was handled for you. And I want to give you something concrete, something small enough to do in the actual heat of it. Before you say one word, here it is. Before you respond, before you open your mouth, before you do anything else, put one hand on your own chest, right there. Take one slow breath in and out. You are not doing this for the meltdown. You are not calming down for your toddler. You are breathing for the file your body just opened. You are telling your nervous system, I am not 5 years old. This is not an emergency. I am the adult in this room. That signal, that small, deliberate signal, is enough to give your thinking brain time to catch up to your alarm. 3 seconds is all it takes to interrupt the automatic and make room for the intentional. And then watch your toddler. They're not just watching your face. They're reading your nervous system, and theirs will begin to move toward yours. Hand, chest, one breath. That is the whole move. And if tonight doesn't go that way, if you snap before you remember any of this, if the alarm fires and the words are already out before the breath happens, I need you to hear what Tronick found in the other half of his research. He spent years measuring how often parents and babies were actually in sync, truly connected, reading each other correctly. His number, about 30% of the time, not struggling parents, not absent parents, all parents, in sync 1/3 of the time. What made children feel secure wasn't that their parents never got it wrong. It was what their parents did after they got it wrong. I'm sorry I yelled. That was my big feeling. Not your fault. One sentence, one kneel down. That moment, the repair, does more for your child's felt sense of security than a perfect day ever could, because it teaches them something no perfect day can teach, that love survives the storm, that after a rupture, someone always comes back, that they are not too much. And somewhere in that kneel down, you're also saying it to yourself, to the version of you that maybe never heard those words, the one whose file is still open. You're telling that child, I see you and I've got us. So let's bring it back to the kitchen, the triangles, the snap, the 3 seconds after. You know now what that was. And knowing it, really knowing it, is how the pattern begins to change. Your snap is not a character flaw. It's an old file that opened faster than thought. That file came from somewhere real, from the child you were and what your nervous system learned to expect. It's been running the same loop for 30 years. And the most important thing in all of child psychology, your child's security doesn't depend on whether you had a difficult past. It depends on whether you're willing to make sense of it, whether you can look at the file and say, I see where this came from, and I'm ready to write something new. You just started that work. I made a free guide that goes deeper, naming your specific triggers, the exact repair scripts word for word, and the questions that help you begin making sense of your own story. It's linked on the screen, and I want to hear from you. What's the moment that hits your nerve the hardest? The sound, the time of day, the specific phrase? Tell me below. I read everyone.